Good day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in into the webinar on the Vietnamese PV market. This webinar is about reviewing and previewing the emerging market for solar energy in Vietnam. I'm very pleased to have Oliver Masman join us. He's managing director from Dwayne Moores today, from Dwayne Moores in Vietnam. He's an indispensable beacon of insights and knowledge in the Vietnamese PV market. Today, I will do a short introduction on Vietnam and on Solarplaza, and afterwards, the majority of the time will be taken by Oliver Masman, because probably every one of you is here to listen to him and not to me. At the end, we have a short Q&A, and then we end the webinar. Q&A is mainly intended for you as attendees here to ask questions for Oliver Masman, and we'll try to address all, if not most of them, today in this webinar. The webinar is as a prequel to our solar PV trade mission to Vietnam, 27 November till December 1st this year. We'll start off with 2 days in Hanoi to meet government official, regulator and utility. And then we'll move to Ho Chi Minh City to meet the private sector and international financiers. It's intended to be a turnkey solution and serves as a springboard into the PV market of Vietnam for mainly project developers, IPPs, service providers and financiers in the market, or with a keen interest in the market. About Solarplaza, established in 2004, trade missions like this one to Vietnam is one of our major brands in the market, where we take an international delegation of PV industry into a new market. We've done over 90 events and attended most of the countries in the world that are either on your radar or are coming on your radar for PV destination. Throughout these years, we built an extensive network of over 55,000 PV professionals, ranging from the project developers up to the manufacturers, suppliers, and everything in between. Practical notes: if you have technical issues, please use the chat box in your screen. I'm here with some colleagues that can help if you have any questions or remarks on the technical issues. Also, the questions can be asked in the chat box. We will gather all this information and then try to address most of them in the Q&A at the end. If not, we'll try to get back to the most urgent questions in following up content through this webinar. Of course, the presentation slides and the recordings will be made available. People signed up for the webinar will get a notification in the email when they're ready. Normally it takes a few days to process it all technically. So, on Vietnam, I would like to give a short introduction on the country by providing some economic figures, diving into the existing energy mix, and then the overall PV potential and targets that are set in Vietnam. Afterwards, Oliver Masman will take it off and he will dive into the specifics of the market, the legal framework, and the governmental framework that has been established up to now with Decree number 11. The basic economic figures: of course, it's a pretty big country in Southeast Asia. It's one of the most hot topic markets in the region. The credit rating BB- B2 is also one of the, I would say, maybe hurdles / opportunities for PV developers in the market and for investors. The ease of doing business is quite extensive for such a new market. Access to electricity, 99.2%. Electrification is also an urgent or one of the major opportunities in the market for PV. With the last, let's say, 1% of electrification might be an opportunity for the off-grid PV sector. Power consumption, almost 1500 kilowatt hours. Renewable electricity as percentage of total output, 41% at the time. Renewable consumption is 36%. The GDP per capita, over $1,600 on a year. A GDP growth rate, which also coincides with the growth in electricity demand, 6.7% at the moment. The total installed capacity by source at the moment in Vietnam, as can be seen quite clearly, hydroelectricity is the major source that also explains for the high renewable energy uptake and consumption rates in the country. followed closely by the fossil fuel industries, with the purple thin stripe representing other, where we should or would like to increase, of course, the renewable energies, wind and PV. From this energy mix, EVN supplies 61% at the moment, is the major supplier of electricity in the country. The rest is a combination of domestic IPPs and foreign investors on a BOT arrangement, in also the likes of General Electric in the gas turbine and thermal plants. The current proportion of hydropower, being the largest source of energy at the moment, is estimated and forecasted to reduce to 28.7% in 2020 and will decrease further to 17.8% by 2030. In contrast to hydroelectricity, the fossil fuel generation is expected to grow rapidly, up to 48.8% in 2020 and over 50% in 2030. The potential for PV. Vietnam is of course regarded as a good destination for PV, has quite decent conditions, natural conditions. The average solar irradiation is about 5 kilowatt-hour per square meter. In this essence, it's comparable to Spain and Italy. The regulatory environment, as will be made clear soon after by Oliver Massman, also provides fertile breeding ground for solar projects, especially stemming from the National Master Plan for Power Development, number 7 in the country, that clearly outlines a growth of renewable energy capacity in the country. 850 megawatts by 2020, 4,000 megawatts 2025, up to 12,000 megawatts by 2030. This master plan also resulted in decree number 11, let's say the solar decree, that's more up for Dwayne Morris now and Oliver Massman. Oliver Massman is managing director of Dwayne Morris Vietnam. He has over 20 years of experience working as a commercial lawyer in Vietnam, speaks Vietnamese also fluently. He's an expert on renewable energy policy. Probably most of you out there that are already eyeing Vietnam has seen him coming by as a speaker or on LinkedIn, posting regularly on the policy framework and the updates. And he also assists and supports international stakeholders coming into the country, as can be seen also in our PV trade mission coming up in November. He's our lead content partner in this event and will provide extensive support throughout the trade mission to our international delegates. I will enter Oliver Massman now. Oliver, can you hear me?
Hello, Rick. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good to have you with me. Good to be with you. Thank you very much.
I will give you control now of the presentation, and then you can take us through the specifics.
Hello, I hear you, yes.
To the specifics of the country. The floor is yours, Oliver.
Thank you very much. How do I change the slides here?
You can either...
you change the slides?
You can change the slide either by pressing the mouse button or spacebar.
Okay. Wait.
Just a simple click.
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Vietnam. If you take anything out of my presentation here, just take this. Why is Vietnam so special? And I'm talking about the establishment of your legal entity and developing solar power plants in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, Vietnam has the most liberalized WTO market access service sector commitments for power and energy of all Asian nations. And that is the reason why you should come to Vietnam, because you can establish your own 100% foreign-owned power generation company in Vietnam to do solar projects. Now, can you do that in other ASEAN nations? No. In the Philippines, maximum, for example, you get 40% in your local entity that is running the plant. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the very beginning. And let me walk you through my slides. Taking stock of Vietnam's solar energy potential. My agenda here. the new solar feed-in tariff. What is the background? Why is it a decision of the Prime Minister? Very important. Then investment incentives for solar project, what incentives you get. Then I talk a little bit about the national versus the provincial power master plan adjustment and what is the policy on renewable energy of the Vietnamese government. Then the roles and obligations of Electricity Vietnam, EVN. Let me explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, Vietnam has still a sole off-taker model for utility scale power projects, not only renewable, all projects, and the off-taker is Electricity Vietnam, EVN. So for utility scale projects, you have to ultimately deal with electricity of Vietnam. And I will teach you how to deal with them, because it's sometimes not easy. But if you have a clear plan and you manage basically your project very well, or your project development very well, it can be done. Then next step is bankability, the issues here of recent draft solar PPAs. Ladies and gentlemen, you might listen or might read a lot about the latest decision of the Prime Minister on solar and that it is not bankable, a lot of issues around it. Is that true? The answer is yes. Does it make it impossible to do solar projects in Vietnam? The answer is no. And then I give you my recommendations on how to implement solar power projects in Vietnam. So, oops. So let me start with investment incentives, investment capital, import duty, corporate income tax, and land.
I think you're passing some slides. Is it going well?
Sorry. Can you go back then?
Yeah.
Because
I will do the presentation slides for you,
yep.
Mr. Masman.
Yes, and then I adjust forward. Okay, that's easier for me. Okay, let's start with the solar decision, the feed-in tariff. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you right at the beginning. Let me explain to you one very specific thing to Vietnam. It is the solar decision is a decision and a legal framework issued by the Prime Minister, Nguyen Xuan Phuc, personally. Why does it play a role? Why do I tell you? Because in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, not much has happened in the solar power plant development in Vietnam. So the government and the new Prime Minister were very concerned about that, and the new Prime Minister has made that his matter, his personal matter. So he signed the decision on solar. What does it mean for you? I personally, working in Vietnam for more than 20 years, I have established very good contacts to the Prime Minister. We must report to the Prime Minister on development of your project if you come to Vietnam. We will then get the support. The support is not automatic. Vietnam is a command and control country. And in Vietnam, one principle you should take. It is a very consensus-driven society. Everybody has to say something, nobody has to say everything. Meaning we must use the connections to the Prime Minister to get that project done in a reasonable time. First, feed-in tariff. Let me talk a little bit about the feed-in tariff. For on-grid projects, the feed-in tariff is 9.3 US cents per kilowatt. The rate in Vietnam Dong will be adjusted according to the fluctuation. So you can have a hedging clause, hedging provisions in the contracts. There's no problem. I have done these. I have precedents for that. There's no feed-in tariff for off-grid rooftop projects. Then they included the net metering principle into rooftop projects here into the legislation. The oversupply amount will be credited to the following month, and the end of the year or expiring of the PPA, the exceeded amount will be sold to EVN, and EVN has the obligation to take it. Next slide. So I would talk about investment incentives, investment capital, how much you need, then import duties, corporate income tax incentives. There are dramatic corporate income tax incentives, and the issue of land. Now, land is very important for that. You need, for utility scale, a lot of land. To secure legally the land is not the issue. Vietnam has a pretty sophisticated legal framework yet. But the issue is how to find land. as Rick has shown you, the southern provinces, Binh Thuan and Ninh Thuan, these are the provinces where the highest level of radiation exists. To secure that land from effect, to really get that land is an issue. Legally, to secure the land use right is not, but to find suitable places is an issue, because Vietnam is one of the most densely populated countries in Asia. Next slide. So there's a national or the provincial power master plan. What I will tell you now, it is very critical for developing a power project, also on utility scale. You have to make friend with the local people's committee in the province. Vietnam has over 60 provinces, and when you want to develop a project, the chairman of the people's committee of the province is the guy you have to talk with, and they get certain incentives if they help you to get FDI, foreign direct investment, into Vietnam. So you must make optimal use of basically the chairman of the people's committee, and you must make friends with them. Next slide. So roles and obligations of EVN here. EVN by the government is delegated to purchase our power. They still have a monopoly here now. So obligations of EVN in case of generation curtailments and grid connections delay. I will talk in detail about what you should know. Vietnam still has the sole off-taker model. So for utility scale projects, the authority to deal with and to negotiate with electricity of Vietnam. It is sometimes not easy, but it can be done. I just have to manage your expectations there. And maybe I have later a suggestion for you for a smaller scale project that can be done faster, off-grid project, and you don't need to negotiate with EVN. Rick, next slide. Okay, now you might meet other lawyers, or you might have read from other lawyers also the issue of bankability of the draft solar PPA. Now there is a huge issue in it, yes, but let me state it right away at the top. Does that mean that you should stop now developing solar projects in Vietnam? Of course, it doesn't mean it. The solar decision and the solar legal framework is a baby born now. It's a baby born. And it's not perfect. It's not a perfect born baby. The issues here are, there's no offshore arbitration in there. So to solve that, you have to negotiate offshore arbitration in there. There's no government guarantee to enhance the credit of EVN as a sole off-taker, and the government has made already very clear that it will not sign off on the obligations of EVN. But can you solve that? Yes, for utility scale, you can solve that with a so-called MEGA guarantee. The MEGA guarantee, I'm working now on a project, we got that, is a so-called multilateral investment guarantee agency of the World Bank. If you get that support, you don't need a government guarantee. For details, please ask me later. Next step, so there is also, next issue, there's also no provision addressing the risk of changes in applicable laws, but you can easily include that into the documents. And the draft PPA is required to follow a specific template. Should you stick to that template? No, you should not stick to that template. And that's where basically the contacts to the government are very, very critical. We must establish, if you want to hire me for your project, we must establish a reporting line to the Prime Minister, that the Prime Minister knows where your project is going and can support. He personally has signed this decision. It is his baby, and he has expressed that he would like to support. So we should make use of that to avoid basically such issues and to try to solve issues of bankability and other issues. Next slide. So now we come to my solution, where I say this is a solution where you don't need electricity of Vietnam, so you don't need to negotiate with them. it makes it much easier, much simpler to do this solution. I have found an old law, and this is still applicable, and this defines the so-called 30 megawatt rule. Please keep that in mind. Vietnam has over 200 industrial zones. And in those industrial zones, there are large multinational companies, foreign invested multinational companies. Some of them, and I'm working on projects now, some of them have approached me and said, Ollie, do you have a solar developer? We would like to source a certain amount of energy for us from solar. So basically what I'm telling you is try such small projects. The 30 megawatt rule says that all projects under 30 megawatt can be licensed by the Provincial People's Committee. So the Ministry of Industry and Trade and the capital Hanoi has nothing to do with it. That makes it easier, first. Second, go off-grid. Find yourself a sole off-taker, large multinational companies. We can help you in over 200 industrial zones. Second, if you go off-grid, then the rule applies. You don't need to negotiate with EVN at all, and you can freely negotiate the Feedin Tariff and any other specifications. On top of it, you don't need a government guarantee. If you have a reliable, good standing off-taker, you can get a guarantee from him. Only provincial committee and the direct buyer, a company in industrial zones, for example, are involved in that deal. So for short-term, mid-term development of relatively small-scale projects under 30 megawatt, you should go off-grid and do that. You can establish your own company here. You can establish 100% from on. You can do everything under your control if you use that off-grid solution under 30 megawatt, and you can get that project done. Basically, the legal framework, everything, you can get that project done within 1 year all together. Licensing, everything, negotiation, everything. So I think that is a good solution when you want to build track record. So my way, if you want basically to come into Vietnam, go it small first, small, medium size, go it under 30 megawatt, try to go off grid. You get that done, you establish your track record, then you have already one project, you have gone through a learning curve, and this learning curve will enable you to do then at the next step larger utilities.
Still there?
I finalized my presentation. Sorry.
No need to feel sorry. No, thank you for giving this this introduction on the regulatory framework and the legal framework as it is now. As you indicated quite clearly, it's work in progress, the PPA and the framework. With the PPA draft just being a draft, we're expecting more, of course. I think a lot of people are anxious to see where this will go, what the final details will be. Maybe for a good first question is, as you also indicate, like there are some bankability issues with the PPA. Could you say, like, are there any priorities now from the Vietnamese side? What to work on? What hurdles to take away?
Yeah, I mean, I already discussed that with one of the key persons. Is Dr. Tuan from the Institute of Energy in the Ministry of Industry and Trade. He is very well aware now that the key issue is predictability for development, for investors, predictability. So one key issue is how long will that take if you do utility scale projects to negotiate and get the agreements bankable with the EVN. Yeah. This is basically absolute core issue. So the solution for that is we will establish a shareholder, a stakeholder meeting in the future within the next months, where every month or every second month we will report to the Prime Minister and the MOIT on the development of such projects and what issues we're facing with EVN. For utility scale projects, this is the absolute critical issue, how to manage the development stage and get it more predictable. I just give you one example. In EVN, I needed to negotiate a power purchase agreement for a coal-fired power plant some years ago. And don't be shocked, It took me 6 years to negotiate the PPA. So that should not happen in the future for solar power project. So this is the key, how we do that. And how do we do it? We established a direct reporting line to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister will watch over EVN.
Exactly. So hopefully, of course, we are in the PV industry, so we're more quicker on our feet than the coal thermal plants, hopefully. So that should be reflected also in the this whole process. Another question that came in: is there a general cap for solar? Is there a maximum that they will allow under this FIT or under this PPA to be?
Under the current laws, there is no general cap. To the opposite, Vietnam is in an energy crisis. And Vietnam is the Vietnamese government very much encouraging solar power development. So legally, until now, legally binding, there is no cap now.
Okay, and then on this existing PPA draft, of course, the FIT are applicable as stated up to 30th of June. One of our attendees, is this actually signing the PPA? Applying for it, or the realization of the project, so actually commercial operating date?
So you mean the validity of the decision number 11 for the next 2 years? You mean that?
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, it is basically that you get signed off on all agreements. So within the next 2 years, the decision became in effect in April. So April 2017, we count until April 2019. You have to get all your licenses in shape issued, and all your project documents validly, legally binding, signed. That's it.
Okay. Another question on the of actually developing and moving along with your projects. How are the requirements for environmental and social impact? Are they licensed on state level? Does the same threshold go for that, for the environmental social licenses, or do you go on a provincial level?
For utility scale projects over 50 megawatt, it's the government level. For non-utility scale projects under 50 megawatt and under 30 megawatt, it's the province.
Exactly. So also there you need to have that local presence, to be friendly.
Absolutely.
To the regional representatives. On the PPA again, will it be paid in US dollars or dollars?
It will be paid in local currency, but there will be basically what you can do is, it's not automatic. You're right under the law, but I have worked on certain PPAs in the wind sector. I have them in my hand. So my approach will be, I will use that provision. The EVN and the government signed off already on foreign currency exchange hedging, and you can have a legally enforceable foreign currency exchange hedging clause in there that allows you basically to hedge or to prevent your foreign currency risk. Of course, we get paid in Vietnam dong, the local currency, not in US dollar. Exactly. But having said that, but there is a carve-out. Having said that, if you follow my solution on an off-grid project, meaning you find your own off-taker, I'm currently working on one project now. This is an off-taker project where we have basically, where we have a German company, a very healthy, medium-sized company from Germany that's producing here in Vietnam, and they want to be the off-taker. It's an under 30 megawatt project. I referred to you in my presentation. Then we currently negotiating, and you can even do that under the 30 megawatt rule. You can do that you negotiate from this payment from this foreign off-taker in euro, and we did it and we got it approved. So if you follow my model of starting developing small scale under 30 megawatt projects with one off-taker off-grid, then of course you can have foreign currency payment. You don't need to rely on Vietnam dong.
Exactly. So it is also on that side, it could be a preferred route to take
Absolutely. For the beginning, I would say this is a very feasible model to develop in Vietnam.
Yeah. I think we have two questions coming in. They deal with multilateral guarantees, and the other one mentions the World Bank guarantee, so the MIGA guarantee. Are these multilateral guarantees already provided on projects? Doesn't have to be renewable energy or energy related, but could they also provide an extra impulse for increasing bankability?
Yes, definitely they will. They have not been provided yet because the law came just out in April. But for our utilities, for my utility scale project, is a 600 megawatt solar project now. I'm working now. My client has approached the World Bank, and they got in form of an email a positive confirmation that MIGA could be provided. Of course, they have to negotiate the technical the specifications and so on, but we are very optimistic that we can get that MIGA insurance. But has that been done before for solar? Has it been issued for solar in Vietnam? Not yet.
Exactly, but yeah. So with projects underway, are you aware of PV projects specifically also looking for this guarantee, or are we looking at a more pragmatic, opportunistic market where we move ahead and just the general credibility of EVN that provides enough?
Yeah, for utility scale, I would not rely on the general credibility of EVN because electricity of Vietnam is in very bad shape. Don't get me wrong. Please understand the role of EVN. EVN has managed with the lowest power tariffs in whole Asia to build up a relatively acceptable power generation infrastructure since its establishment in 1994. So EVN has done the mission impossible. The EVN is under pressure from the Politburo, from the Vietnamese government. That's the critical issue. That is the reason why it makes it very difficult to negotiate with EVN. But the guys in EVN, I know personally, also the chairman, Mr. Dung Quoc Thanh, they almost do mission impossible to try to build up this power generation infrastructure with almost no money. So the current situation of EVN, the credit rating of EVN is actually not good because the government does not allow them to increase the electricity price and so on. The World Bank has issued a report, and I have done an analysis. And ladies and gentlemen, to the audience, if you want to have my report on the World Bank's study on saving electricity of Vietnam and how that can be done, I can send to you. But the World Bank has suggested last year that EVN and the government increase the electricity price, the end consumer price, to 60% within the next year, 2018. So it's a dramatic increase just to basically make provide a more commercial, sounder base, market base for EVN to operate. But EVN situation is in dire straits.
Yeah, yeah. Well, coming from different emerging markets in Africa, Latin America, we've seen it across the whole globe. When electricity prices paid by consumers or by end users are not cost reflective, then the utility bleeds. Sooner or later that will hurt. Is there a move already underway to make energy prices more cost reflective on the end user?
Yes. Yes, this is also reflected in the amended master plan number 7 of the MOIT, and of course this cooperation position paper with the World Bank. And there's also a privatization, will be a liberalization going on, not privatization, but liberalization going on with EVN, meaning in the next coming years, it will take 4 or 5 years, but in the next coming years, EVN will be basically the electricity market will be totally privatized, liberalized. So you have power generation companies that can compete. They have already a power pilot project for 3 Gencos. They're doing it now. So we're looking to a totally liberalized market in 2023 or 2024, where EVN has no monopoly anymore.
So that's also underway. Is it the most impactful master plan on energy up to now?
Yes, it is the most accurate one. This is an amended master plan number 7. They're working on form number 8. They haven't issued it. So this is the amended one, but there is clearly the commitment defined of the Vietnamese government to develop, to support development of renewable energy projects.
Okay. Maybe one last question will be, well, we also have $1 million question. Maybe that one first. It's $1 million question. I'm not sure if you can elaborate on it, but what returns can an investor expect from utility-scale solar in Vietnam?
I'm currently working on that, on my 600 megawatt project. Let me just give you a threshold ceiling. Yeah. Everything can be achieved up to maximum 15%. 15%.
That's all feasible, depending. Does it also depend on, as you also discussed, like on what's most influential in it? Is it because
of course, it depends on the financing arrangement. And if we get MEGA, basically this is 100% insurance. So that basically is absolutely conducive to a good ROI.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I would like to propose this as the last question. With the decree number 11 in effect until June 2019.
It's a decision number 11 from the Prime Minister. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any change in policy expected after that date? Will they carry on with the FIT, with the structure that they have now? Or might there be a complete turnaround of the market where they might go to auction schemes or?
This is a little bit looking into the crystal ball, but based on my negotiations and my talks with the Vietnamese government, they have learned that the auction system in Thailand, for example, had some had some negatives, so they are not really keen to do that. They told me at this stage, nobody knows what will happen in 2 years from now on, but in 2 years from now on, there will be still the same government in action because they have a 5-year period, and the new government just took position last year. So I doubt very much that they will move away totally from this thing. That will reduce the FIT maybe in 2 years from now on because PV rates go down. But I don't think that we have an option. I think they will continue with this policy they have now, legal framework, and they don't limit it.
Exactly. Is there a clear idea of what would be a success in this decision number 11? Like, is there, like, if we reach up to a certain point of PV capacity and also wind capacity, it has been a success? Is that?
Yeah, they have, of course, they have issued a wish list, and but don't be shocked. They plan to have in the next 5 years, they would like to have 4 to 5 gigawatt in solar.
4 to 5 gigawatt in solar.
In the next 4 to 5, within the next 4 to 5 years, yes.
4 to 5 years. Yeah. Well, I'm not easily shocked, but it's a statement to work for. I think also.
Yeah. Because they're facing an energy crisis, and they have to diversify the energy resources. So they're facing a huge energy crisis, and so they are very ambitious to get to that. In wind, the same, and because also fossil fuel plants, the development takes ages, takes 10 years, 8 years, 10 years or so in Vietnam. So they are banking very much on renewable energy.
Oh, that's what we like to hear.
Yes.
Of course. No, it's of course we are quick industry, especially PV industry. We can move quickly and we can build quickly. And
exactly.
In a country that's facing energy crisis. Oliver, we have some more questions left, but I will try to work with you and other partners in Vietnam to work on these, because also some of them are more technical, the grid connection and licensing.
Good. Send me all. I reply per email. I'm very happy to do that.
Of course, yeah. We'll try to work on a content piece that touches upon these last questions. I think they're quite valuable as well. And then we'll distribute them to the attendees of today. For now, Oliver, first off, I would like to thank you for your time and for your input.
Thank you very much, Rick.
For all the attendees, thank you for your time and input and your questions. As also stated by Oliver, if you have questions to follow up with, or if you have more remarks, please send them over. We are always here to answer them and help in any way we can. I will be more than pleased to meet and interact with you in Vietnam coming November, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was my pleasure. Welcome to Vietnam.